If you're a driven, active person who wants to reach and pursue a higher quality life with some ambition, then guess what? This podcast is for you. This is the Driven Athlete Podcast. What's up, y'all? It's your man, Dr. Kyle. We've got a really cool guest here with us today, Nicole Erickson. Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate coming in here and sharing some more about your background and how you help people. Mental performance coach.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Tell us more about what you do, okay, where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm currently in South Florida, right near you, and I'm a mental performance coach. So really easy summary of how I like to say what I do is I help athletes build confidence, build composure, and control focus.
Okay.
So I provide them with tools that they could use on and off the field, court, course, whatever it is.
Right.
To help them perform better and to enjoy the sport more.
No, totally. I mean, in my humble opinion, with my own little like athletic endeavors in the past, looking back and reflecting, I'm like, the confidence component, the composure, like that is the number one thing that like separates, really great performances consistently over many, many games and seasons compared. Because everyone's really athletic and has great talent. Like
Yes.
the separating factor of a D1 sports athlete, like talent-wise and athleticism, isn't really that much different.
Yeah.
Especially in like when they're a pro, everybody's super athletic.
Everyone is, yes.
So then why is it that some athletes just perform and there's better players?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the mental component.
It's the mental component.
I'm sure you would agree with that. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, of course. I'm like, yes. No, but yeah. So I mean, if you look at the greats, right? I always say like what separates the greats from the goods, the greats are able to recognize when they're distracted or what, composure's lost, like Djokovic comes to mind. They're able to recognize it and quickly get out of it. And they know how to do that for themselves in a productive way.
Like what strategies to refocus?
Yeah, because everyone's different. Everybody's different. Or at least like release that emotion or whatever's going on for them that's stopping them from executing the way that they want to be executing.
Yeah, totally.
Again, able to recognize it very quickly and able to get out of it quickly because they know what to do.
Yeah.
So
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So you help athletes build confidence,
Yes.
maintain their composure, and then what was the third thing you said?
Focus control.
Focus control.
Yes.
So like be able to control your focus, stay on task. And that makes sense what you said. Like the first step, I guess, would be recognizing, I'm not in it right now. Like I acknowledge this is a fact.
Yes.
Understood. Okay, next, how do I get back?
Exactly.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And noticing when you're distracted, when you mentioned tennis, like Djokovic, it's such a mental game, like a focus game.
Yeah.
The mental fatigue.
Yeah.
Golf, I would put in the same category.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm an amateur golfer. If I break 90, it's a great day. Like, I'm not leaving frustrated.
Yeah.
So I don't have a ton of experience in competing in that. But the times that I do play, I'm like, I lose the mental focus and the mental endurance.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And besides tennis or golf, what other sports do you say come to mind in that same category?
I'm going to be honest with you, like all sports.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think every sport's different, right? But I think with the mental side, there are like the mental endurance, the mental strength, all of them have some sort of like fatiguing. It fatigues you in some sort of way, right? Even though basketball's super fast, it's not like you're playing a match for 3.5 hours. Like tennis, you're out there for 2 and you're running up and down the court. So there's not as much time to like dwell on a point or
Right.
There's still some sort of fatigue there. Right. And so I think, again, it just depends on the sport and the athlete and their needs and what that looks like for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack real quick.
Yeah.
Tell us first where you went to school, because you played college basketball, right?
So I didn't, but I'll tell you my story.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And it's getting into this profession, that was one of my worries because everyone, that you meet, I assumed they would want you to play in college, right? It's kind of like your, what's the word I'm looking for?
The credibility.
Thank you. Yes, credibility. If you were, at that level. But what I've come to find when I tell my story, they kind of realize they're like, oh, okay. So when I was in high school, well, I fell in love with basketball like 8th grade. That was it. That was life. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to play professionally, and that's it.
Yeah.
Very determined, committed, was training outside of my practice with my team, was doing everything I could to learn the game so that I could achieve my goals. And really what stopped me was the mental side. Why I lacked confidence was the mental side. And during that time, I didn't really recognize that because, again, no one really talked about the mental side. And it's like, you don't talk about it, right? That was kind of the thing. And I didn't know who was going to show up game day. I didn't know if I was going to play for myself or against myself. And what I mean by that for me was I'm someone that's super hard on myself. And so I was very fearful of making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was distracted by that. And on top of that, if I made a mistake, I'd be dwelling on it for like the next 5 plays. And that's now my focus is split and I can't completely execute to my fullest potential. So I struggled with that. I was also a very emotional athlete and I didn't know how to manage those. So I just try to shove it away, push it away. And I always like to use the example, like if you think of a ball in a pool, you try to shove it down under the pool. Eventually your arms are going to get tired and it explodes out from the surface.
Yeah,
that was kind of like my emotions. Thank you. It's like my emotions. So I usually would get pulled from the game and like have to calm down before I got to go back in. And so that really stopped me. So that's why I lack confidence, because I didn't know how to manage the mental side. I didn't have any tools to help me.
Yeah.
And then I also tore 2 ACLs in high school, which was
that's tough.
It was very
It makes it challenging.
Yes, yeah. So one was going into my sophomore year, second was going into my senior year. And that the senior year one was probably the most devastating because my world really, it came crashing down. I had only ever saw myself and my future and my success and my identity, my worth in basketball. I never really thought that's what I was good at. That was me, And so when the second ACL came around, it was like, oh man, now what? Like, what do I do?
Yeah. I don't know who I am at this point.
Exactly. And luckily I had gone through the first one and kind of, got that experience of like recovery and being away from the sport. But still, it was my future that I had been planning since I was in the 8th grade.
Right.
So, I had to make a really tough decision of either trying to still play,
2
ACLs later, torn ACLs later, or do I, go to college and figure out what's next?
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Florida State.
Florida State, the Seminoles.
Yes, go Noles. Okay. Go Noles.
How do you feel about them not getting into the Final Four?
I don't know if I want to talk about it.
Why would you bring that up?
I want to talk about it.
A lot of upset people.
Yeah, it was brutal.
One.
It was a tough one.
It was a tough.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty. I don't know if I'm going to be watching any of the bowl games. We'll just
boycotting.
Yeah,
we're done.
Right? Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, I've always reflecting back on this again. I'm like, there's a small window of an opportunity for kids to play organized sports and to showcase themselves and have an opportunity for a completely different trajectory in their life that opens up way more doors and opportunities if sports weren't a part of them, right? And then add like the identity component on top of that. It totally makes sense. Like, and people still, some of my patients, my friend, me included, still tell stories like, oh man, remember in high school, this one game, this one play, the glory days. Like, that was 20 years ago. And that's still like a highlight of our life, what I'm like, man, it's just impactful.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm like, man, there's a small window of opportunity. And we can't eliminate injuries, of course.
Right.
We can help lower the risk of injury and educate. And we also can't eliminate emotional distractions and stuff, but we can help maybe set the stage for things to be better and as much as we can.
Right.
And that's where the mental health component comes in, and mental performance. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say, like, don't talk about the mental health component. I would like to think that the culture seems to be shifting
definitely
now, that maybe the past 5 to 10 years. which is great in my opinion, versus like, yo, are you weak? Right? Are you emotionally, are you just, emotionally weak?
Soft.
Are you soft?
Yeah.
Just pull it together.
Yeah. Get over it.
I'm like, man, that is, and the same apply with everything in life, right?
Yeah.
Relationships, like your own, everybody has their own stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
And then sports, of course. But I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like I love hearing and feeling myself that the culture seems to be shifting.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, therapy, like for sure.
Yeah.
Right? That's like good.
Yeah.
Right? Like we want things to be good. But so you've noticed that yourself too?
Oh, definitely. I think it usually within sport, it starts at the professional level. And the more athletes at the professional level are talking about it, more professional teams are hiring some sort of, and I know we're going to touch on, the difference between counseling and mental performance coaching, which I'm very excited to talk about. But,
right.
Teams have hired psychologists to be the team psychologist. And now at the college level, they're actually building out athletic departments for just the mental side. And that includes like they're hiring licensed counselors, and they're also hiring mental performance coaches. So like I like to think of the mental performance coaching side more as it's going to be almost like an athletic trainer that's on the field meeting with teams, and they're assigned a couple teams, and that's what they do, right? They're working with the athletes. And then if they need extra help, they're going to that athletic center where the counselors are for the more mental health concerns that they're having or challenges that they're facing.
Like what?
So I mean, it could be a lot of different stuff, but with therapy, it's more, generalized anxiety, depression, eating disorders. Some athletes experience suicidal thoughts. I think that's another one where it's scary to hear that. But the more that we are able to talk about it, people go seek help.
Yeah.
And that's what stops that,
yeah.
right? Because you're more willing and open to share the thoughts that you're having. Right. So it's more preventative.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Like the right setting with the right person.
Oh, man.
And it's like, let's dive in.
Yes. And so that's from, all across the board, that's really what you're looking at when going to a therapist or counselor.
So for you then, the mental performance coach side, on the field, on the court, at the game, like an athletic trainer would be, and then helping to instill the confidence, composure, the emotional management on field.
Yeah.
Like between timeouts.
Exactly. Between timeouts, like if you're coming off the bench, before a game, even in practice, sometimes we struggle in practice with where we're at mood-wise, bringing stuff from school or, relationships, whatever. How do we acknowledge that that's there, how we're feeling, and just go into practice and still get the most out of practice for that day and enjoy ourselves? I feel like a lot of times we start sport because it's fun, we're good at it, and it's a safety outlet. It's a place where we go there and everything else just goes away.
You can escape.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so how can we continue to have that from the thing that we love?
Like a positive experience versus chronically stressful.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. I wish I had you when I was playing sports. Yeah, same. Yeah, me too.
Me too.
That's why I got into this.
Exactly.
So I would imagine then, like, if you're working with teams and stuff and athletes, everybody has their own thing. And their own ways to cope with some stuff and management and refocusing strategies.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with that with each individual person?
That's a good question. Well,
like Cindy comes off the sideline, hey, let's go through this self-affirmation, I guess, or like whatever you would do. And like, oh, John comes back. Oh, well, you have something different. Let's go through your thing.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good question. With the field that we're in, and the training that we do going through school, it's a lot of what I teach my athletes about being present. And when you really pay attention in a conversation and really listen, and it's a lot easier to remember things about, what people say and who they are and what's working for them. Mind you, we do. I mean, all practitioners take notes, right? We take notes after the fact as well, review those notes. So, I mean, if you're working with a team, part of your job is, hey, you got to know what Cindy and what John wants.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like,
I don't know why I always use those names. I don't think I've ever known anyone named Cindy.
It works. No, it's all good. So yeah, so it's your job to remember that and know that. So I think just with the ability of sitting in and having conversations with individuals and remembering back because of how present you are in a conversation.
Yeah.
On top of, reviewing those notes prior to games and sessions is super helpful.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I found that with myself too a little bit. Looking back, being like, I remember this person, and their specific personal stuff they would talk about.
Yeah.
Like, how do I remember that?
I know.
Like, well,
it's awesome.
I'm like, I try hard.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And I'm like mentally absorbing and trying hard in the moment, and it just sticks a lot better, which makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's also interesting too, like on the other end, when I'm talking to other people and outside of work and stuff like that, I can tell when people aren't listening, and it's one of my pet peeves. I feel like,
yeah, that's tough.
like
It is.
you're not listening. You know?
Yeah, you're not.
Why am I even?
You're not fully with me
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
I'm
why
just
am
gonna
I-
stop. I've done that. I've stopped mid sentence.
Yeah,
They
Nothing.
didn't say anything. I'm like, you didn't even notice.
that hurts.
Okay, now I know where I'm at.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
I know where we're at.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, I digress. So you were mentioning like, okay, so let's talk about the different clinician types.
Yeah.
Okay, mental performance coach, a licensed mental health counselor,
Yeah.
and then the third one, psychiatry again,
Psychiatry,
psychologist.
yeah, psychology, yeah, yep.
Okay.
And so, like with the psychiatry and the clinical mental health counselor or therapist, really just the difference, from my understanding, is just being able to prescribe different meds. They still help in different capacities as far as like sitting down and talking and having an approach when speaking with their clients
About like depression, anxiety, stressors in life, maybe coping with previous tumultuous relationships and okay.
Yeah, any of that. Yeah. So
Whereas for you, it's like, hey, you missed that shot and you're emotionally getting out of hand here. Let's refocus with these strategies and get back in the game in 5 seconds.
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's way different.
Yeah, way different.
Yeah.
Way different. But to be fair, like to your point, right, there's a lot of relationships within sport, like relationship with your team, whether that be like your team of coaches that you have surrounding you, or like a team, like you're on a soccer team, right, where you have all these different players, positions, your coach, all the coaches. And so you have those relationships as well that I talk about with athletes, but it's all pertains to sport, right? So, yeah.
That's cool. I love that stuff. With what are some of the strategies then? Like what things usually work a lot with athletes?
I'm going to give you a more broad version of what I teach, because a lot of my skills that I go over they overlap quite a bit. And my approach is quite different. I would say it's more up and coming. More mental performance coaches are leaning toward this approach, but it's really acknowledging and accepting your internal experiences, and then from there, with that acknowledgement and acceptance, so making peace with whatever's going on and just knowing that it's there and that's just gonna be there and it's just gonna go away when it goes away. Knowing that it's there and you could still be the person that you want to be. You can still execute. You can still behave in alignment with what truly matters to you. And so it's a lot of self-awareness. That's that acknowledgement. The acceptance piece is probably one of the hardest things to tackle because we're so, for so many years, probably since we were young, I mean, for everybody, we're taught like, no, like you can't feel this way, whether it's unintentionally or intentionally, right? Like unintentionally we'd be like, oh, you're sad. Let's go get cupcakes. Let's go get ice cream. Let's go shopping.
Yeah.
Let's go outside, throw the ball.
We're thinking what I've heard a lot, maybe not necessarily personally, but like rhetoric of kids and stuff like that. Like, it's okay. Don't be sad.
Yes, exactly.
We've heard anyway. Our own like amateur versions of, because we have 2 kids, me and my wife.
Yeah.
We found a lot of cool things and strategies and stuff. So we find ourselves trying to validate like the acknowledgement, acceptance.
Yes.
Validate the emotion first.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And be like, it's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
You know, tell me
exactly.
why, you know, or
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
I know we try to do that with our kids. So it's the same thing you're saying with your athletes.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
validate what you're feeling.
Yes.
So it's okay that
Make
you're
peace.
pissed off right now. Like,
It makes sense. Like
it's
a lot
okay.
of the time, it makes anyone else would be pissed in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be pissed. But just because you're pissed and your emotions are setting off, like your brain's setting off all this stuff, you know, hormones and adrenaline, all this, and you're feeling all this stuff in your body and you're getting urges to do certain things because of that emotion, guess what? You don't have to do those things. You don't. There's a choice. And through the skills that I teach, right, you start that like little second. It starts out where it's just like, it's so fast. Like you don't even see a gap of like acknowledgement, acceptance, and then like, okay, now I have a choice to take action. Usually it's just like anger, boom, action.
Yeah.
Right? Well, no. The more that you do the skills, that space becomes bigger and there's more clarity in your brain to be like, okay, I could either scream at this person right now, or I could just sit and continue to listen and keep a normal tone and just be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So it's a lot of like spreading the gap, opening the length of time
Yeah.
between heightened emotion
Yeah.
and then the action.
Yeah.
There's like heightened emotion. It's like, I'm aware that I'm pretty upset right now and I want to punch this person in the face. You know, I was kind of
Smash my racket.
Yeah,
throw
exactly.
My helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was an emotional athlete for sure back in the day, in the glory days.
In the glory days.
You know, a lot of outbursts. Well, I felt better afterwards, but anyway, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm emotional. This is loud.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be and I would expect someone to be emotionally upset if they missed this play or something bad happened, bad call, whatever they disagree with. Understood. Got it. I'm validating that I'm emotional right now. And then from there, it's like I can do this or this. What's going to be maybe advantageous for my performance?
Yeah.
If I throw my racket or if I do my refocus strategy.
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
Exactly.
Okay. So then, all right. So we widened the gap. We've acknowledged and validated our emotions. We've lengthened the gap to action, and we're choosing to take a path.
Yeah.
What are those? What then is a strategy?
So that's a good question. So this is where like values come in. Hey, what truly matters to you? What do you want to represent as a person? Who do you want to be? Right? What is that? What is that?
Yeah.
And you know, I think we all kind of have an idea, but how often do we actually sit down and really process that and think about it?
Totally.
Right? So that's the direction right there. What is that for you? And when we figure out what truly matters to you and who you want to be as a person, those things are really fulfilling when you're living by it.
Yeah.
When you're doing things within that. And so we really break it down and figure out, okay, but what does it look like? Because I think a lot of times we get caught up in the words like, oh, I'm kind and I'm hardworking. And that means that I just go, and I'm nice to everybody. But it's like, okay, but what does it look like on a day-to-day? Like if you were to watch a video of a person and say, man, they are kind. What are they doing? What are they doing for you to say that? And then we get to the nitty gritty of like, okay, so now, hey, you want to be more aggressive in a game. You want to box out more, right? Box out and rebound more. Okay. What does that actually look like? Like you're finding a man, you are turning around and backing them all the way out of the 3-point line, right? Like just to be exaggerated a little bit too.
Right.
Okay, so now we're getting more specific in the action, and now it's more clear as to, oh, this is the way I want to go, rather than like basketball just standing and looking up at the ball and jumping up for it.
Yeah. And be like, what the heck did I get the rebound?
Yeah, exactly.
What the heck?
Yeah.
You know, and then you're mad.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Coach is yelling at you, and then you're benched. Everything fails.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All crashes down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes total sense. So a lot of it's like, paint a picture of somebody's kind, or like they're a really good rebounder. Okay, then what exactly makes them a good rebounder? If you watch film, like they're a good rebounder, they're not. What's the difference?
Yeah.
And then for you, can we apply that? Right? In the game, in the situation. That's what you're saying?
How do we do it more? How do we make that choice to go that route more often? When we're angry, when we're sad, when we're annoyed, when we're happy, when we're excited. Because that's the other thing that I feel like a lot of people, I don't want to say get wrong, but don't think about enough. It's like, yeah, the negative emotions, like they're super uncomfortable, and they usually, right, if we act on those negative emotions, if we choose to act on those negative emotions, yeah, usually the behavior isn't that great, right? Or we don't execute the way that we want to.
Yeah.
On the flip side, in sport, if you're, man, even some in life too, like if you're super excited, super confident, super amped up, like how many times have you messed up and been out of control because you're so like amped and fired up? Like for some people that happens. That happened to me.
Yeah.
Like if I would get like, if I was up there and I was like ready to go and super energized, like a lot of times I was out of control.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I was the worst pregame basketball shooter.
Yeah.
Because I'd be so jacked up and on adrenaline.
Right.
I'd like do a quick jump shot in the warm up, and it like bricks 3 feet above the rim. And I'm like, that was not even close.
Yeah.
I don't know right now I'm just like, there's no leveling off, you know?
Exactly.
So that makes total sense too. Because even with like football, right? Because like football is a super aggressive, you would think like the more adrenaline and aggression would be just a benefit.
Yeah.
Not always the case that I found.
No. It could lead to personals, it could lead to a bunch of different like.
Totally.
Yeah. That, in turn doesn't help the team.
No, for sure. Reflecting back, like the times that I really was playing really well, I was in that state of like, I was relaxed, and I wasn't too amped. And I was just more fluid, but it's like, how do you get there?
Right.
Like you're in the zone, right? Well, that too, but like, how can you manufacture that?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Like, how can you manufacture that? Do you work on that with athletes?
So I mean, you could get as close as you can to it. I think to your point, like everyone has a different zone. So like that point that I made of like sometimes the, positive emotions, if we're feeling those, we make mistakes too. For some people that doesn't, they're like, no, that's where I thrive. Like I stay in control when I'm there. So like everybody's different. So again, going back to that self-awareness piece of figuring out like where you perform best at. For instance, I had this gymnast, college gymnast, and we had been working together for a while, and it was her second season, and she was on bars, and she's like, man, like I always hit my routine in warm up. But then when I go to compete, I'm not hitting it. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing? What are you doing before you go out to actually execute?
I had a lot of teammates like this.
Yeah. And they're like, she's like, well, I take deep breaths. I'm like trying to calm my nerves. I'm like getting really relaxed beforehand. Well, then I'm like, all right, I know because she's told me about the gymnastics warm-ups. You only get like so many turns on the bar, or so much time on the bar, and it's super chaotic too, because you like go, but you're also helping because everyone needs the bars at different sizes, and there's mats, they move, so it's like crazy. So like in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, like you're like amped up when you're warming up, like you're high, and then you go to compete and you're bringing yourself down because it's uncomfortable in that situation because it's only you out there in front of the judges. I'm like, you know what, I want you to just try, like practice it first and then go out and compete. I want you to just try to allow yourself to be a little bit amped up, a little nervous when you go out and perform in front of judges, because you are during the warm-up
And you're crushing it.
Yeah. Goes out, does it.
Does way better.
Does way better.
Interesting.
Right? Like,
That's
isn't that wild?
Yeah.
But everyone thinks you got to be super calm.
Yeah. Okay, now take a breath.
Yeah.
I think something that really was a pet peeve back in the glory days for me, again, just reflecting, right? It's all I can do is just reflect.
Yeah, totally.
When a coach, other people that aren't actually in it, share the advice that works for them.
Yes.
I'm like, you're just telling me what you would do.
Yeah.
I'm way different than you, dude. Like, I just actually, you know what? Just be quiet. just go away from me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's sharing advice that's like, no, what you need to do is this. I'm like, okay, whoa, you have no idea, and you're just telling me what you would want.
Right. Or what would help them, right?
Exactly.
And they're just trying to help, but at the same time, it's like, but that doesn't make sense in my head.
Yeah, totally.
We aren't the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough part. But I think it just aligns with what we've been talking about as far as like everybody's different.
Yeah.
So that's the cool part about my job. I'm meeting with individual athletes. It's like, okay, let's figure out what does work for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you and figure this out.
Even just hearing that, I love that.
Yeah.
I would imagine, do you work with a lot of like youth athletes?
Yeah. Yep.
Between the ages of like what, like
high school to college. So like 14 to like 22, 23. Yeah.
So I would imagine looking back, realistic situations, they have probably a lot of opinions coming at them from all angles. Mom, dad, coach, other coach, assistant coach, and their friends.
Social media.
Oh my gosh. Social media.
Yeah. What's
Great
this
point.
video saying and this video saying?
How do they look when they're doing it?
Yep.
Friends and then themselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
So what advice do you give those kids that get all these opinions from all these different angles that obviously are misfiring and don't click?
I think it's just working through them. I think what I did, just what I said, it's like all these people just want to help. They're just trying to help you. Right. Like, and that's part of, so like overarching my whole approach is like flexibility and just like compassion for like everything, which sounds like kind of like ooey gooey, but like
hippie.
Yeah.
Compassion for everybody.
Woo, right. No, but it's helpful because it's like, well, like they are just trying to help. Like it can get annoying at times, but they just want to help me. Yeah. Yeah. Really. And it is. It's really annoying, but they're just trying to help. And it's recognizing like helping them to figure out, hey, who are the people that like it makes like you trust and are those that backing, that really understand you. Yeah. And at the same time, still being kind and like being able to learn how to funnel out like what does make sense for you and what doesn't. So like someone you might be having, you never know, like you might be having a great conversation. They're giving you their opinion and like it's all like, no. And then they just say one thing that clicks and it's like, oh yeah, gonna grab that. Everything else just gonna funnel out. Thanks. You know.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I guess, summarizing that, first step would be, okay, I'm getting a lot of opinions. They are, yes, I'm annoyed. Let's validate this. Yes. Anybody would be annoyed actually in this situation, getting conflicting opinions that I don't like and I don't even want right now. Okay, I'm annoyed. Got it. Understood. Next step, they're trying to help. That makes sense.
Yes.
Because they love me. They want me to do good.
Yes.
Okay, that makes me feel better. But I am annoyed still. Okay, understood. Now this decision made, I can have a choice. Right? Yes. They did say 8 things that I didn't agree with, but they said 2 things that I did like. Yeah. I'm going to take those 2 things.
Exactly.
This person said 7 things I didn't like and 1 I did. I'm going to take that 1 and then move on.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And they're just trying to help me. Yep. I am annoyed. That's cool. But they're trying to help me.
Yeah.
And I took these 3 things.
Yep.
Got it. Now I can move on.
Yep.
And I had this one person I really like. They're my guy, my girl, my guy.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to lean into them probably more.
Exactly.
So, okay. I wish I would have known that when I was
same.
Middle school, high school, and college for sure.
Me too.
One thing I was thinking about, you were bringing up under pressure, right? Like it's chaotic.
Yeah.
I perform well. And then also like when I'm trying to calm down, if I'm overly positively amped, then I perform less.
Yeah.
I've been diving a little bit into stoicism recently, the past couple of months. Yeah. It really like resonates with me. I'm like, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
And one thing I remember hearing was like, under provocation, right? When you're provoked, right? How can you manage that?
Yeah.
Your emotional management, even though you're provoked. Or it's like, if I'm provoked and like, I can't handle anything, I can't hear anything. It's okay, then we got to manage this emotional control a little bit, right? Do you dive into stoicism much with some of your athletes?
I've read about it.
And then is that a similar message of like, when you're provoked?
Yeah.
How do you manage?
It all overlaps. It really does. But I think, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier for me as far as managing those emotions, like understanding that they're temporary, they're going to go away and you could still, no matter what urges and feelings that you're getting from it, because emotions and thoughts are, I say they're just information that your brain's trying to give you. Your brain has a job. It's to protect you. That's what it's done for hundreds of thousands of years. That's why we're all here today.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why we're here, because our brain is really, really good at protecting us.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was protecting us from, like, to survive, right? Death. Now, well, now we're thriving. I mean, you know, we're thriving.
Yeah.
Like, our threat, rather than getting eaten by a bear, is making a 3-putt.
Right.
You know, like,
or concern of what the social media opinions are going to be.
Yes, that's another threat.
Yeah.
Right. Like letting others down, or what the social impact will be. But social impact goes back hundreds of thousands of years ago. If you weren't part of a group, you're more likely to die.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have that protection.
Yeah.
It was smarter to be in a group.
Makes total sense.
Right. So it's like, duh.
So the same like heightened life or death type of situation is subconsciously brought to light.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's just like maybe like a somebody's rejecting your social media post, or like, what's this going to look like, this fail video of that I missed a shot, but still correlating it to like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Because
seriously,
the bear is going to attack me.
That part of your brain. Yeah. It's activated and boom, like that's what it's supposed to do. So that's part of this whole like acceptance and making peace with, like, our brain's doing its job. It's like that overly helpful friend where you're just like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
You know, but it's there and it's providing you information.
That overly helpful friend. It's, God, you're in a good, I know your heart's well intended.
Yes. Right.
That's enough.
Yeah. No more.
Yeah.
No more. So yeah. So they, that's what our mind does. And so it's really just like knowing that. And it's like, oh, okay. Like my brain works. Thanks for this information, brain, and like getting my body ready for whatever I need to do to protect myself. But you know, I think I'm gonna do this instead. Yeah. Like, you could do that. You're in the driver's seat. Your emotions and thoughts, they're not in the driver's seat. Yeah. They don't have to be.
It makes total sense.
Yeah. I think we give too much to our thoughts and our emotions, too much.
One thing I heard with that too, that this has been like a recent epiphany for me, of the same message of like, it's just like thoughts come and go all the time.
All the time.
And just because you have a thought, it doesn't identify you as a person.
Nope.
What, like, cause it's like, if I'm like, thinking a thought that's like, okay, that's not a great thought. And like, I can't believe I would think that. Yeah. What am I? I'm terrible. It's like, well, I'm not acting on it. No. It's not me. It's just a thought.
It's just a thought.
And it's just, I can make it go away. Like it happened. I'm not going to act on it. No. So we are what we repeatedly do. And if we're repeatedly not acting on it, then that means that we're not that person. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Mission accomplished.
Boom.
And I was like, wow, that makes total sense.
Yes.
Because I used to get mad at myself and be like, why would somebody think like that, or have these thoughts? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, what's just a thought?
And then
I don't have to act on it.
Yes. Yes.
Mind bomb.
Bomb. Yes. And that's the cool part about that. We are not our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are what we do. Yeah. Right. And like, usually, like when we judge ourselves for what we're thinking or feeling, well, that just like turns it up. It's like adding fuel to the fire. Yeah. And now we're just like, all our energy, effort, and focus is going into that like one thought. Yeah. Or that one emotion. And now that's where our energy, effort, and focus is. We can't do anything else. We're not enjoying the moment. We're not there. Yeah. So. And
sacrifice performance. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. I love that stuff. Okay, so then do you advocate then for your athletes like self-affirmation talks, or like
we get to that. We get to that. I think because again, I like to really build on the acceptance piece first. Right.
So it's a process.
It is. And depending on where the athlete's at, we go there. Because the thing with the self-affirmation stuff is like, if you say this to yourself, you're going to be happier and more confident and more motivated, and it's going to be la-di-da-di-da. And again, it's giving that, like, we are what we think, we are what we tell ourselves. It gives that.
It's more in the same boat of like, we're not our thoughts, but here we are, our thoughts.
Exactly. So it doesn't contradicting. Yeah. Right. So once I'm able to get athletes to a point where they're like, okay, Like, you know, I acknowledge that I have thoughts that come in and out. They're temporary. Like, I can manage them. I know what I'm doing. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's there, but I'm focusing here. Then it's like, all right, like, do you want to say some stuff that pumps you up? And like, yeah, sure. Okay, go ahead. Go for it. Like, let's do it. What works for you? You know? And in the skills that I teach, we are using intentional self-talk, purposeful things that we're saying to ourselves to work through the emotion or the thought. Right? So like like when we were talking earlier, it's like that validation piece. Like, you got to talk to yourself. You got to be like, all right, so I'm acknowledging and noticing that I'm feeling this.
So I'm not the only weird one who talks to himself.
No.
You have to talk to. Yes.
Yes.
I know I'm normal. I thought so.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
That validation, I needed that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. So it's, we do, you know, we explore that, but the self-affirmation stuff I usually get to like later on, if it even makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And age kind of depends on it too.
Like the maturity level,
like developmental, like where they are developmentally. So like I work with some really young athletes, so like 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So then it's like, you know, I'll do some affirmation work with them just because they're so young. It's kind of like what you're talking about, you know. It's hard for them to understand that what we're feeling and thinking, that the actions doesn't go with it. Right? Because they think that. Because usually they're disciplined when they feel angry and they, you know, hit their sister or whatever, you know, pinch, you know, somebody or throw their food on the ground, right? Because they're mad. They don't know how to verbalize it.
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't know how to manage it at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they associate.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. So they associate them being mad as bad. But it's really the action that we're disciplining, right? Not that they're mad or sad, right? And so that's where it gets a little tough with that younger age group of like, hey, you know, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but you just gotta be like work with it, and where I'll bring in affirmations a little bit more. Yeah.
So intentional self-talk. Mm-hmm. Things like, because I was looking back again, like I would be like, oh, you're such a baby, right? Or like, you're so soft, or you suck. You know what I mean? I would imagine that's very common.
Oh yeah.
To the athletes you work with still.
Yeah.
So then do you still have like a validation moment and then like, well, let's reverse this and have a different self-talk?
No.
Okay. What do you do?
Refocus.
Just refocus.
Yeah. The thought's so like if we can completely control our thoughts and emotions, all of us would be very happy people saying very nice things to ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't. Like, that's just what it is. Again, it's our brain. And that's what I tell my athletes. And so it's not about like, because then it's this like chess match in your head, or like the screaming family at the dinner table where it's like, I'm right. Like, what do you know? Or I'm going to move my pawn. Now that move, you know, it's like negative, positive, negative. Again, all the effort and energy is going into, well, when can I make myself believe and stop having these negative thoughts? Yeah. It's like, all right. So what I teach is, hey, again, let's acknowledge a thought. Sometimes like the fun thing to do is like name your thoughts, or name your story. So like me, I have like my worried thoughts, or my worry story, you know, because I'm still hard on myself, and I still like fear the future. Yeah. You know, like it's scary out there. So that when those thoughts come in and I recognize them and say, oh, here's my worried story again. Here we go. Yeah. Like that in that moment, it takes it away from, again, me not being the story. Like, I'm not that. It's separating me from it. And it's like, all right, like, cool. Like, thanks, brain, but no thanks. Like, I'm choosing to shift focus now. It's still there. It's still in the back of my mind, but I'm not going to put any energy, effort, focus into it. Like, I've acknowledged it. I'm just going to let it be. And I'm going to shift focus to like what I'm doing right now, and just be in this moment, enjoy my family, cook this awesome meal, like paint, whatever it is that I'm doing in that moment, that I want to just be here and enjoy this and not be thinking about like what I have to do tomorrow for work.
Right. Is there any strategies in that moment of like, I'm going to reshift my focus. I want to be present. What helps even further to be present versus like, I'm going to be present. I'm present.
Like how?
Be present.
How do we be present? Yeah. Right.
Like focus on details, what you're doing. Like, what do you recommend? And I mean, let's apply this to sports, right? Like,
yeah. Good idea. Yeah. Duh. Okay. So with sports, I like to with being present. Sentences are really awesome. So like tapping into your senses is like an anchor for being present. So, all right, in this moment, like with golfers, like, hey, maybe it's in between, like you just hit a shot and you're walking to your next ball. What do you see around you? What do you see? Like take a moment and look around. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? And feels not just with our hands, like you could feel your feet swishing on the grass. Yeah. Yep. Like your hat on your head.
What's it smell like? Fresh cut grass.
Exactly. Great. Yep. So things like that, senses, I usually have them. So we're very focused a lot on outcome, which makes sense because that's what we're taught again. Like
success or failure is the outcome. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
So what I would try to do is, hey, let's create some small goals, like really small, specific goals that are really achievable. But if you're constantly doing them, it's going to build your confidence and build momentum.
Right.
It's what you want to be doing and focusing on. And it's just like 1 to 2 things. All right. Shift your focus there. Like, are you doing them? What do you want to do, in that moment? So it's
like a specific goal being like, I want to get through my pre-swing routine, my pre-shot routine, really hyper-focused.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
And if you did it, boom.
Yeah.
Like I had a surfer that I was working with, and she was working on, she needs to use her hands more when or arms more when she's doing her turns.
Yeah.
Right? That was her small goal, and getting lower. Right, she wasn't bending her knees enough. So those were her 2 small goals.
So it's like, I don't want you to focus on the successful maneuver.
Yeah.
The focus is, are you using your arms?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yep.
You did it. Mission accomplished.
Yep. And if you didn't complete the turn or you fell, whatever. You swung your arms more.
Right. And that was what we were trying to do.
And that's what you're trying to do. And the more you do that, the more success you will have.
In the maneuver anyway, because you know the tactics and stuff. Yeah. That's really cool.
Present. So those are just a couple. I mean, breathing is super helpful. Everyone, for me, the senses, other people, the breathing. It just really depends on the person.
Interesting. That's cool. I've heard the breathing one a lot.
Yeah.
Military. I know like the Navy SEALs, I think, talk about that a lot. Is that right?
Yeah. A lot of people talk about the breathing.
What's the thought behind that?
I mean, it's helpful. It is helpful. I think, the misconception that happens with the breathing is like, oh, like this is meant to calm me down. Like I'm getting in a relaxed state. Well, yeah, of course you're going to get in a relaxed state if you're slowing your breathing down.
Yeah.
But the intention behind it, right? So like, I'm sure you have many physical therapy exercises that you teach, and within those exercises, you can target different things within that drill. Right? So like there's different intentions within the drill, and one athlete, you may use it for this. Another athlete, you may be using it for this. Make sense?
Yeah.
So like with meditation, or breathing, what is your intention behind it? Is it to work on your focus, or is it to calm down? Right? And so I think going into it with that mindset of like, well, I'm using this actually to focus, and a byproduct may be that my heart rate slows down, my breathing rate gets more controlled, right? Like I feel more calm, but my main purpose of it is to work on my focus and be more present.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. With confidence,
yes.
Right? I've always thought, like, I agree that the confidence is the differentiating factor. It's the tip of the spear for good versus great, right? And consistency over time. And then building confidence is challenging. You can't just be like, I am confident now.
Yep.
Done.
That'd be nice.
Can't do that.
No.
And it's not authentic, and it's just fake, right? Unfortunately. And we know that subconsciously. But anyway, and like, okay, then if that's the case, I'm a fraud. So something I was introduced to a couple years ago, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Something I battled that my whole life. I didn't even know, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, thought I was confident, but really I was just like, I don't really belong here. And sooner or later, everyone's going to find out that I'm actually a fraud and I don't belong here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on how can you authentically build confidence?
Yeah. So, I think competency comes before competency. So your abilities, your knowledge within the sport, that comes through experience, comes through practice. And I think where I got mixed up when I was a young athlete was, if I just practice and dedicate all this time, I'm going to be more confident. Well, my strengths was in like tactical and technical on the court. Where I lacked was my mental side. And that's why I lacked confidence, because I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the knowledge and ability of when I got on the court to manage what was going on in my head so that I can show my strengths.
So some of it's like the emotional control is going to help with confidence.
Yeah. Okay. And being more present, being able to focus, like that's just adding to your knowledge and abilities. Once you have that, you're unstoppable. Like that's a lot of the parents and athletes that come to me. I want to build confidence. I want to feel more confident. Like that's a common theme. And it's like, okay, we can do that. I'm going to teach you all this stuff. And then you're going to go into games and matches and, whatever the sport is. And you will feel more confident because now you have tools to help you when fear pops up.
Right.
Nerves pop up. You just don't feel like you're in it. Right? It's not, I'm going to say these affirmations daily and, be confident.
Yeah.
So
part of the emotion, I should have said management, the emotional management versus control. The emotional management plays a role with being more confident and instilling the confidence.
Yeah.
The competency, like the ability to be like, I am good, right? Like I guess I would reflect on like in practice and all this preparation I've done is evidence that I am good because I've hit 10 free throws in a row, or like I'm able to do this drill 1,000 times and nail it. Yeah. So I can do this. Is that something you recommend too then, like in the moments or before games and stuff? Like to reflect back on like past wins.
Experiences. Yeah. So I think it depends on the athlete. Some athletes do really well with that. Other athletes are like, that makes me more nervous.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you say with them?
So them, you're not doing that.
Right, so then we're not going to do that.
We're not going to go there. Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, cool.
So it's more like, okay, for them, like, again, what works for them? Well, it's not thinking about past experiences. It's thinking about, maybe it's visualizing themselves being successful, but it's not about past experiences. It's about seeing it themselves, making it themselves in their mind.
Yeah, visualization. Yeah. We didn't even talk about that.
No, we didn't. That's a whole other, I love it. I know.
The
it's
future framing of visualization.
Yes. And so
I love that too.
So do I. Or like, maybe it's the meditating. Maybe it's the, focusing on those small goals. Everybody's different. So whatever that is to help you get into that place where you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The visualization, the mental rehearsal.
Yeah.
I was exposed to that in grad school with some other stuff. And I was like, I wonder if we can apply this to like sports,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a big thing.
So I was working with this young, for anybody they're not familiar with what I think we mean is like, all right, you're about to shoot a free throw or or hit a putt or something like that. Yeah. Okay, you're nervous. You want the outcome to be good. Got it.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. You don't have to close your eyes, but if you want to close your eyes, visualize yourself hitting the shot. What things would you go through in this? You would make the swing happen. You would do this. You would hit the ball. You would shoot the ball, whatever, and you would see the trajectory, and then you watch it in your brain go in. Successful, win. Yeah. Okay, now make it happen.
Yep.
So I was working with a young athlete, like doing PT stuff, like physical therapy stuff, right? Yeah. We're doing some kind of like a ball drill or like a medicine ball throw or something like that.
Yeah.
And they weren't really doing it right, and they were missing whatever target. I was like, yo, hit this spot. Don't break the window, right? I felt like, okay, this is making me nervous. Yeah. I was like, all right, I'll pause. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to focus on this drill, and I want you to throw the med ball. Don't actually throw the med ball. I want you to throw the med ball with your brain, and that you're doing the drill. Yeah. So I was like, close your eyes and do it. I was like, all right, did you do it? Yep. Okay, let's try it again. Did it? Failed. Yeah. And I was like, let's do, whoa. When you mentally rehearsed and visualized yourself, did you visualize yourself failing? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That makes total sense. All right, dude. Yeah. Hey, makes sense. That's fine. Yeah. This time I want you to visualize yourself being successful through this little med ball throw or whatever drill. And he did it. And then he did it again. He was successful that time. Yeah. But I was like, man, that makes total sense.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I didn't even, in the moment, I was like, you probably visualize yourself failing.
Yeah.
I did that. I do that a lot too. You know?
Well, so to your going back with the skill, because I want to hit on this for people that are listening. So it's recreating or creating an image in your mind of you playing a sport or executing a skill within sport.
Okay.
With imagery, it is a skill. Like we do it, like what you're saying. Like most athletes have visualized before failing and being successful. They do that. Some athletes cannot do it. Like that's just what it is, but they can build it. Doesn't mean they can't do it.
Right.
It's a skill.
It's just a skill that builds.
Yeah. It's like, it's like a swing in golf or baseball. It's like dribbling in basketball. You can build it. The thing that's really important with imagery is controllability and vividness. So controllability is how well you can manipulate and control the image that you're envisioning in your mind, right? Without your mind taking over. So some athletes have low controllability where they're trying to imagine prior to a match or during a match, and the brain takes over and shows them failure. Well, then we don't want to be doing that.
Right.
Because we need to build up that control. So when you are doing it, you're seeing success.
Yeah.
Right. And you need more reps with imagery to build that control. Right. Vividness, how clear you could see the image. The more clearly, the more benefit you're going to get.
So high controllability, high vividness. It's just going to make the experience more real and then more of an impact. That makes total sense. So like in the moment, you want to be like, oh, okay, you have a game-winning shot. You've never done this before. I want you to visualize you making the shot.
Yeah, no.
You're like, oh gosh,
I missed it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Ball with my foot and I missed. Now go do that. Wait, it's not the intent.
Right. Exactly.
Got
it. Yeah.
So another thing, a message I'm hearing is like, hey, I want my kid to be more confident and improve their skill. So we're going to book a session.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
No, it's like this is like skill building over many, many episodes and months of like practice and work and working through stuff.
Yeah.
So there's no like, it's a process. It's not like a quick one time in your one session, you're like fixed.
Right. And that's the other misconception about the mental side. It's like, we'll get this one like tool technique and we'll be good to go. And I'm going to be fixed. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like I to this day, I still am hard on myself, and it's something that I have to manage and work through on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Like
same.
that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for everybody. Like if you want to get good at it and you want to manage it and figure it out and be successful in that piece of sport, it's going to be a process.
That makes total sense. I would imagine like you're working through 15 years worth of mental visualizations, perspectives, and beliefs that shape your world. And you're working through 15 years worth of that for this one time. Yeah. Like we have a lot of work to do to get through and manage previous tumultuous events and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But same thing with building skill. It's like it's something I've heard that I'm like, this makes total sense too. For the people that are successful in whatever they're trying to do, they're okay with sucking at the beginning.
Yeah.
The humility of and getting the ego out and be like, I'm going to suck at this for a little while, but I know that would it be unreasonable to think that if I practiced kicking the soccer ball with my left foot, that I would be bad at it if I did it for a year straight without stopping and practicing? Would it be unreasonable to think that I'd be good at it? No.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get it.
Right.
But are you okay with sucking for the first 6 weeks?
Right. Exactly.
And looking like a fool? Totally. If I know I know this is going to get me better.
Yep.
So it's okay with sucking for a little while. Were you great at kicking the ball with your left foot the first time you tried? Of course not. Right. Were you great at visualization or emotional management the first time you? Probably not.
Probably not.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's expected.
Right.
And if you practice this over many, many months, would you expect yourself to be better? Probably. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
That's a good message.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm like, it makes total sense.
Yeah. And a story, because I just think it resonates with so many people when you are able to bring it back to a professional.
Yeah.
Roger Federer.
Okay.
When you think of him as a player, mentally, what do you think? Do you tennis?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I would think, he manages his emotions pretty well.
Yeah.
Right.
Very calm.
Pretty steady.
Yeah. Steady. Focused. So recently I learned when he first became a pro, he was not. He was all over the place. Even as a youth athlete, he was there's interviews of his parents saying we would always have to tell him if he can't figure out his mental side, that's what's going to stop him. And so then there's a video of him doing an interview, later on. And he's talking about, when I first became pro, I was a hothead. I couldn't manage my emotions. It took me 3 years to figure out my mental side and feel comfortable and know that I can go into a match and not lose a game mentally. So, I mean, think about that.
3 years.
The GOAT of tennis,
Yeah.
one of the GOATs, right, of tennis. And it took him 3 years. And that can be daunting to hear because it's like, man, but it's like, okay, wait a minute. To your point, how long have you been playing your sport?
Yeah.
Like, how long have you been doing that?
Yeah.
And you're at this point right now, and all you think about is, hey, if I keep playing, I'm only going to get better and become the best ever and go college pro. It's like, yeah, guess what? Same with the mental side.
Yeah. Apply that same thought with the mental component.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that makes total sense. That's totally true. Like, I feel like another barrier for myself reflecting, and I would imagine other people is like 3 years.
Yes.
I can't do that. Like, you're not trying to cram 3 years today.
Yeah, no.
Like, the best way to get there is just taking one step at a time, right? A 10,000 step journey begins with a one step, right?
Exactly.
I don't know what that ancient Chinese proverb or something. Probably messed that up.
Good. Sounded good to me.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. We'll have to get you back to do like a whole mental imagery and
that'd be fun.
Type of podcast.
I'd enjoy that. Yeah.
And perspectives and stuff like that. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll definitely expand more conversations. Tell people where they can find you, how can they can contact you, and like where you're located.
Yeah. So my Instagram is at coachnicole.e. And that's my Facebook too. I'm not really on Facebook, but if you want to go on there and
so more Instagram.
Yeah, more Instagram. And then my website's NicoleErickson.com. So NicoleErickson. So everyone gets that wrong.
So they can DM you.
Yeah, DM me. If you go to my website, my email's on there. Just easier. Yeah. Same with my Instagram. So if you go there, you want to shoot me an email, DM me, I will get back to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you can always we're always open to questions, comments, concerns, and suggestions for stuff that we talk about. And if you have any questions for us with like pain you've been battling, you can always reach out to us. The best email for us is team@athleterc.com. Go to our website, athleterestorationcompany.com, or Instagram. And we're always love to help people. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. And we'll catch y'all next time. Hey, hold up. As you know, we're a small local practice and we don't run any ads or sell anything on this podcast, but it would mean the world if you could share, write a post, or word of mouth recommendation for somebody just like you that's athletic and active that wants to live their dynamic lifestyle, and pay some good karma and pay it forward to somebody else just like you. And who knows, you could change their world, and a 10-second review could be that avenue.